Alright, I am back with more random story times of cosplays and cons and stuff. So, the first one that I want to say didn't happen to me, but it's something that I kind of do myself. So, we were at this convention, and my aunt went with me, and funnily enough, I was talking, it was after the convention of the next day, and I was talking to her, and she's like, "You'll never believe what happened to me." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "So I'm talking to this cosplayer, the cosplayer," and she's like, and all of a sudden she just lifts her skirt up, and she's like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm just getting into my pocket," because, underneath her dress or skirt, she had shorts with pockets on it. And I was like, "Yeah, that's a thing." I said, "I too do that. I'm actually currently wearing my shorts with my pockets, because we just got back from an event that I wore a dress in. And I wear shorts underneath my dresses, my skirts, sometimes my jumpsuits, if they're loose enough, and which I think everybody should do. I wear these nice exercise shorts, and they have pockets. The ones that I'm wearing have pockets. I was like, I'm done this before myself. Have just moved my dress up out of the way to get into the pocket that's on my side because it's underneath the dress. And I was like, "You thought it was really?" Because she said, "Yeah, she just lifted it up, pulled out stuff out of her pocket and tried to show it me it." And I was like, "You think that was weird?" So I was like, "Well, here's my story." I was at a convention, and I was like, I was at a convention. I was at a meetup with a group of people, and I was like, one of the cosplayers, they go into the corner, and they lift their dress up. And I actually think nothing of it. Again, I also wear pockets of an ear. And they're like, "I'm so sorry." They're like, "It looks so weird." They reach into their pant, and in between their pant, they have leggings on, and they have pants on, and then a skirt on. They lift out a drink, a can of energy drink or soda or something. They're like, "I'm not gonna pay the fees for however expensive this was." And you couldn't bring foreign food or drink other than snacks. You could bring little candy, but you couldn't bring a meal into this convention. And just that was smart, but also dangerous at the same time. But also I get it. But I was like, I also do the same thing where my pockets are on the inside or underneath the skirt, and I thought it was a funny story. And that's two stories of skirts. Skirts and dresses need pockets, really. And cosplays need pockets, because a lot of times I'm without a pocket in my cosplay. And so that would be nice. Alright, so my next story time is, the reason I'm telling them is about meeting, guest cosplayers and famous cosplayers and stuff. And the reason being was because I was watching a cosplay video, and they mentioned, Yaya Han, and I was like, "Oh yeah." And I've met Yaya Han and didn't know it at the time. That is the funny part. So before I got into cosplay, and cosplay myself, other than just watching cosplay videos, that's going to be a whole nother story time, of how I got into cosplay. It was either my second or third year at going to cons, and I was at a big con, and there was a table full of cosplay stuff, and they had cat ears, and they had little fox ears, and I loved them so much. And it was actually Gaga Han behind it, because it was her table. And I didn't know it at the time because I didn't know who she was. And so I talked to her, not knowing who she was. And she helped me pick out, because I was like, "I want fox ears. I know I want the fox and not the cat." And I was like, color, and I was like, what color? And, you know, we just sat there and talked while she helped me pick them out. And I was like, that was probably my only interaction with her ever in my life. And I said, and I didn't even know she was, you know, popular or famous or anything. And I was like, at the time, I don't even know if she was that big or not. But the second famous cosplayer, and I don't know if this was them or not. I follow them on like Instagram and like all, you know, different social medias, even YouTube and stuff. So I found them originally was YouTube. And I was at a convention, and I'm dressed as a modern day character of, you know, from Monosushi, Grandmaster of the Mono Cultivation, or the live action version is called The Untamed. And we're getting ready to go into panel, and I'm complimenting them on their cosplay. They're from Naruto. Expert picture, And in my head, I'm going, this person looks very familiar. Never thought of anything of it. And had a whole conversation. And I was like, yeah, I'm dressed as a modern day version of my character because I don't really have the outfit yet. And they're like, oh, where are you from? And I was like, oh, I'm from Monosushi or Grandmaster of Mono Cultivation because those are the bigger names. And I was like describing them and like what they wore. And they got interested and I said, what is it about? And I started describing them. They're like, that sounds like The Untamed. I was like, that's because it is. And they're like, what? I was like, The Untamed is the live action version of the book. It's a book and it also has an animation, you know? And they were just like, what? It was after that convention that I saw pictures that they had posted that they were at that convention that I realized that I was talking to them. And I was like, are you serious? Well, not with, you know, it's how many times I meet a cosplayer that I follow that I didn't know I was talking to, because I am blind with voices, I am blind with faces sometimes, so like, you change one little thing about you, I don't know you. I've literally talked to an acquaintance that I know at a panel, complimented them on their cosplay, didn't recognize who they were the very next day. I didn't know who they were. I'm like, yeah, yesterday events I saw you. And I was like, yeah. Because I have like, I don't know what, I really am like that. And I was like, I don't recognize voices. I don't recognize faces. I was like, if you don't look the way that I see you, I won't remember you. And I was like, I only remember the name that you introduced me by. So like, if you tell me your username, I'm probably only ever going to remember your username. Or if I start using, you know, some people like I know like username and real name, but like it's hilarious sometimes. But like, yeah, that's when I met two famous cosplayers without even knowing. I mean, I've like walked by a voice actors and I almost could touch them and not know who they were. Until somebody like yelled the name and they answered to it, and I was like, I recognize the name. Why do I recognize that name? And then like go back to the hotel or go home and like Google it, and I was like, okay. Because like I'm horrible with names as well. Do not remember them. But yeah, that's how I met like two famous cosplayers. One of them really like I met Yayaha and I not knew who she was at the bar, which I find hilarious.